Hello everyone, and welcome to my General Hospital official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up.
The oppressive humidity of a Port Charles autumn did little to lift the mood at General Hospital. The air within the hospital's walls was thick with more than just the residue of disinfectant and anxiety. It was charged with the electric current of impending confrontations, long-buried secrets straining at their leashes, and the fragile, tentative steps toward new beginnings. The date, Tuesday, October 28, 2025, was not marked on any calendar as a day of significance, but for the interconnected lives moving through the hospital's labyrinthine corridors, it would become a pivotal point, a day of reckoning and revelation. In the dim, quiet solitude of the on-call room, Elizabeth Weber sat on the edge of a narrow bed, her shoulders slumped with a weariness that sleep could not cure. The faint glow from her phone illuminated the delicate lines of worry around her eyes. She was rereading a text message, one she had already committed to memory. It was from Hamilton Finn, a man whose own life was a tapestry of loss and redemption, much like her own. The message was simple, an inquiry about her shift ending, but its subtext was a gulf of unspoken words and a connection that had been quietly deepening for months. A soft knock at the door startled her. She swiped her phone off, the room plunging into near darkness. "Come in," she called, her voice barely a whisper. The door creaked open, silhouetting a familiar, broad-shouldered frame. Jason Morgan stepped inside, allowing the sliver of hallway light to cut across the floor. "Liz," he said, his voice a low, steady rumble that was both a comfort and a complication. "I thought I might find you here." "Jason," she replied, standing up and smoothing her scrubs, a nervous habit. "Is everything okay? Is it Jake? Or Danny?" "They're fine. They're with Monica." He took a step closer, his gaze intense, searching her face. "It's you I'm worried about. You've been distant." A humorless, quiet laugh escaped her lips. "Distant? Jason, my life has been a series of earthquakes. First, Franco, then everything with Drew, and the constant feeling that I'm failing my sons. Distant feels like a luxury I can't afford." She wrapped her arms around herself, a defensive gesture he knew well. "I know," he said, his voice softening. "And I'm not here to add to your burdens. I'm here because I need you to know that what we had, what we built, it wasn't a lie. It was real." Elizabeth's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "It was real, Jason. But it was also built on a foundation of secrets and a version of you that doesn't exist anymore. You're different now. I'm different. We've been trying to force a puzzle piece into a space it doesn't fit anymore." She took a shaky breath. "I got a call from the district attorney's office today. About the custody hearing for Jake." Jason's posture stiffened almost imperceptibly. And they want to depose me. They're going to ask me about your past, Jason. About the violence, the danger, the bodies that seem to follow you. They're going to use our relationship, the instability of it all, as a reason to question your fitness as a father." The words tumbled out, laced with a pain that was as much for him as it was for her. "I will never, ever say anything to hurt your relationship with your son. You know that. But I have to testify truthfully. And the truth is a complicated, messy thing where you're concerned." The silence that fell between them was heavy, filled with the ghosts of their shared past. Jason looked away, his jaw tight. He knew she was right. The life he led, even now, was a shadowland, and that shadow threatened to darken the life of his child. "I would never let anything happen to him," he finally said, the statement both a vow and a plea. "I know that. In my soul, I know that," Elizabeth whispered. "But the court doesn't operate on soul-deep knowledge. It operates on facts. And the facts are a minefield." She reached out, her hand hesitating before resting on his arm. "We have to let each other go, Jason. Not because we don't care, but because holding on is destroying us both. You need to focus on your fight for Danny, and I need to find a way to stand on my own again. For my boys. For me." Jason looked at her hand on his arm, then back into her eyes. He saw the resolve there, a strength that had been forged in the fires of immense personal tragedy. He nodded slowly, a profound sadness settling in his own blue eyes. It was not an agreement born of anger, but of a heartbreaking, mutual understanding. "Whatever you need, Liz. Always." As he turned and left the room, the door clicking shut behind him, Elizabeth let the tears fall freely. It was an ending, a necessary amputation of a part of her life that had once meant everything. But in the quiet, aching emptiness it left behind, she felt the first, faint stirrings of possibility. She picked up her phone and, with a steadier hand than she expected, typed a reply to Finn. "Shift's over. Are you free?" Across the hospital, in the bustling nexus of the nurses' station, the atmosphere was decidedly more combative. Carly Corinthos, a force of nature in a designer blazer, stood toe-to-toe with Nina Reeves, the current owner of the Crimson magazine and a woman who had become her personal nemesis. "This is a hospital, Nina, not a press conference," Carly snapped, her voice a low, venomous whisper that carried more threat than a shout. "What could you possibly be doing here that doesn't involve stirring up drama?" Nina, who had been ostensibly checking on a contact at the hospital for a potential story, offered a cool, condescending smile. "Hello to you too, Carly. I'm here on legitimate business. Something you might not be familiar with, given your recent ventures." She let the barb about Carly's financial and personal turmoil hang in the air. "I heard about your little meeting with Drew. How did that go? Another partnership proposal he wisely rejected?" Carly's eyes flashed with fury. The dissolution of her marriage to Drew Kane and the subsequent collapse of their business partnership was an open wound, and Nina was prodding it with a rusty fork. "My dealings with Drew are none of your business. Unlike you, I don't make a habit of inserting myself into other people's lives and marriages." The reference to Nina's role in the revelation of Willow's paternity, and her subsequent marriage to Sonny Corinthos, Carly's ex-husband, hit its mark. Nina's composure cracked for a fraction of a second. "Be careful, Carly. You're not the Queen of Port Charles anymore. Your reign of terror is over. People see you for what you are now." "And what am I, Nina?" "Enlighten me," Carly challenged, stepping closer. "A selfish, manipulative woman who destroys everything she touches. You drove Drew away, you alienated your own son, and now you're circling Sonny like a vulture, desperate to pick the bones of a life you threw away." Nina's voice was rising, drawing glances from nearby nurses and orderlies. Carly laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. "And you're what? The innocent victim? The savior? You stole my husband while you were both lying to me, to everyone. You think because you're married to him now, you've won? Sonny will never love you the way he loved me. You're a placeholder, Nina. A temporary distraction." The raw, personal nature of the attack left Nina momentarily speechless, her face pale with rage. Before she could form a retort, a calm, authoritative voice cut through the tension. "Ladies." The word was not loud, but it carried an undeniable weight. They both turned to see Dr. Hamilton Finn standing a few feet away, his arms crossed, his expression one of profound professional disapproval. "This is a place of healing. There are patients here who are fighting for their lives, who don't need to be subjected to your theatrics. Take it outside, or I will have security escort you both from the premises." Carly shot Finn a look of pure contempt but knew he was right. She straightened her blazer, her dignity a tattered flag she still refused to lower. "This isn't over," she hissed at Nina. "It never is with you," Nina retorted, though some of the fire had gone out of her. As Carly stalked off toward the elevators, her heels clicking a staccato rhythm of fury on the linoleum floor, Finn gave Nina a long, weary look. "I suggest you conclude your business and leave, Ms. Reeves." Nina merely nodded, turning away to hide the tremor in her hands. The confrontation had left her shaken. Carly's words, cruel as they were, echoed a deep-seated fear she refused to acknowledge, that her marriage to Sonny was built on the unstable ground of shared secrets and rebellion, not the solid foundation of unconditional love. In the relative sanctuary of the doctor's lounge, Portia Robinson was attempting to find a moment of peace with a cup of tea that had long gone cold. The stress of her work was compounded by the ever-present worry about her family. Her daughter, Trina, was thriving, a source of immense pride, but her marriage to Curtis Ashford was a complex, delicate structure still under repair after the devastating revelation of his one-night stand with Jordan Ashford, his ex-wife. The door opened and Curtis walked in, his presence immediately filling the small room. He looked tired, the weight of his own regrets and the struggle to rebuild his life evident in the lines on his face. "Portia," he said, his voice gentle. "I was hoping I'd catch you." "Curtis," she replied, her tone neutral. She gestured to the seat opposite her. "I have about 10 minutes before my next rounds." He sat down, leaning forward, his elbows on his knees. "I know things are difficult. And I know I'm the reason for that. I'm not here to make excuses. I'm here to tell you that I had a long talk with TJ and Molly today." Portia's eyebrows raised in surprise. "About what?" "About family. About forgiveness. About the fact that sometimes the hardest battles are the ones we fight to keep the people we love." He met her gaze, his eyes earnest. "Watching them, seeing the strength of their commitment despite everything they've been through, it made me realize what I'm fighting for. What we should be fighting for. I love you, Portia. I have never stopped loving you. And I am willing to spend every day for the rest of my life proving to you that I am the man you married." Portia listened, her heart a conflicted drum in her chest. The pain of his betrayal was a fresh wound, but the love she felt for him was a deep, old scar that was part of her very being. She saw the sincerity in his eyes, heard the humility in his voice that had been missing for so long. "Curtis, the trust, it's shattered," she said softly. "It's not something that can be fixed with a few heartfelt conversations." "I know that," he said, reaching for her hand. She didn't pull away. "I'm not asking for it to be fixed today. I'm just asking for the chance to help you pick up the pieces. Let me in, Portia. Just a little. Let me help you carry this." For the first time in weeks, Portia felt the rigid wall around her heart develop a hairline fracture. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was a cessation of hostilities. It was a truce. She gave his hand a slight, almost imperceptible squeeze. "We can talk. Tonight. After our shifts." It was a small concession, but for Curtis, it felt like a victory of monumental proportions. A genuine, hopeful smile touched his lips for the first time in what felt like an eternity. "I'd like that. Thank you." Meanwhile, in a private room on the cardiology floor, the air was thick with a different kind of tension, one of grief, confusion, and a love that was being tested in a crucible of unimaginable pain. Sasha Gilmore sat by the bedside of her infant son, Liam, her body curled protectively in the chair as if she could shield him from the world through sheer force of will. The baby was sleeping, his small chest rising and falling in a rhythm that was both a miracle and a torment, a reminder of his fragile hold on life. Brando, her husband, stood by the window, his back to the room, staring out at the gathering dusk. The silence between them was a chasm, filled with words too painful to speak. "He had a good day today," Sasha whispered, her voice hoarse from disuse and unshed tears. "The nurse said his color was better." Brando didn't turn around. "The doctor said the next 48 hours are critical. They don't know if the new medication is working." His voice was flat, drained of emotion. It was this emotional absence that was slowly killing Sasha as much as her son's illness was. "I know what the doctor said," Sasha replied, a note of steel entering her tone. "But I have to believe he's getting better. I have to hold on to hope, Brando. It's all I have left." Finally, he turned. His face was a mask of anguish. "Hope? Sasha, look at him. He's hooked up to more machines than a fighter jet. He's fighting for every breath. Our son is dying, and you're talking about hope?" The words were brutal, a raw expression of his own helplessness and despair. Sasha flinched as if struck. "Don't you say that," she hissed, rising to her feet, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. "Don't you ever say that in this room. He can hear you. He can feel our energy. If we give up on him, what fight does he have left? What fight do we have left, Sasha?" Brando shot back, his own tears now falling. We're burning out. We're snapping at each other. We're falling apart. I'm so scared that even if he makes it, there won't be enough left to bring him home to. The confession hung in the air, a terrifying truth they had both been avoiding. The immense pressure of their son's illness was fracturing the very foundation of their marriage. Sasha stared at him, seeing not the angry, distant man he had become, but the terrified father, her partner, who was just as lost as she was. She took a tentative step toward him. Then another. She stopped in front of him, her body trembling. Then we don't give up on us either, she said, her voice breaking. We can't. Liam needs his mommy and his daddy. He needs us to be a team. I know you're scared. I'm terrified. But we have to be scared together. We can't let this tear us apart. She reached out and touched his arm. It was the first tender gesture they had shared in days. Brando looked down at her hand, then into her eyes, and the dam broke. A sob racked his large frame, and he pulled her into a crushing embrace. They held each other, two broken pillars trying to hold up the crushing weight of their shared world, their tears mingling as they clung to the one thing that had not yet failed them, their love for each other and for their son. I'm sorry, he choked out against her hair. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be strong for you. You don't have to be strong for me, Sasha whispered, holding him tighter. We just have to be here for each other. However this ends, Brando, we face it together. Promise me. Together. He nodded, his face buried in her neck. Together, he vowed, the word a lifeline thrown into their stormy sea. Always together. Down in the hospital chapel, a different kind of soul was seeking solace. Sonny Corinthos sat in a back pew, his head bowed not in prayer, but in weary contemplation. The faint, filtered light from the stained glass window cast a kaleidoscope of color across his clasped hands. The confrontation he had just witnessed between Carly and Nina played on a loop in his mind, a stark reminder of the two warring poles of his life. He heard the soft click of the chapel door and didn't need to look up to know who it was. There was a particular energy, a specific scent of perfume that announced her presence. Nina, he said, his voice low and resonant in the quiet space. She slipped into the pew beside him, not touching him, but close enough that he could feel the warmth of her body. I saw you leave after, what happened with Carly? Sonny sighed, a long, weary exhalation. It's hard to miss. The two of you could power the city grid with the energy you expend hating each other. It's not hatred, Sonny, Nina said, though her voice lacked conviction. It's history. Complicated, painful history. That's the understatement of the century, Sonny replied, finally turning to look at her. His eyes were dark, troubled. She said some things to you. Ugly things. Nina looked away, her fingers twisting the strap of her purse. She said you'd never love me the way you loved her. That I'm just a placeholder. The silence that followed was heavy. Sonny reached out and covered her restless hands with one of his own, stilling them. Carly and I, we had decades. A family. A life. What we had was a wildfire, all-consuming, powerful, destructive. It burned bright, and it burned everything in its path until there was nothing left but ashes. He paused, choosing his words with uncharacteristic care. What you and I have, it's different. It's not a wildfire. I don't know what it is yet. It's newer. It's quieter, most of the time. But that doesn't make it less. Nina looked at him, her eyes searching his for the truth. What is it, then? It's a choice, Sonny said firmly. Every day, it's a choice. I chose to marry you, Nina. I choose to be here, with you, now. The past is a ghost. It can haunt you, but it can't hold you, not unless you let it. He squeezed her hands. Don't let Carly's ghosts become ours. His words were a balm, but they did not completely erase the sting of Carly's venom or the nagging doubt in her own heart. She leaned her head against his shoulder, drawing strength from his solid presence. I love you, Sonny. I love you, too, he said, the words feeling both true and like a promise he was still learning how to keep. As evening began to settle over Port Charles, casting long shadows through the windows of the hospital, the various threads of the day began to weave into their new patterns. In the parking lot, Elizabeth met Finn by his car. No words were exchanged at first. He simply opened his arms, and she walked into them, burying her face in his chest, allowing his quiet, steady strength to surround her. It was not a dramatic declaration, but a simple, profound act of acceptance. The end of one story was making space for the beginning of another. In the hallway outside the chapel, Sonny and Nina walked hand in hand, a united front against the world, though the cracks in their facade were visible to those who knew where to look. In Liam's room, Sasha and Brando sat together, their hands linked as they kept their silent vigil over their son, their renewed commitment to each other a small, defiant light in the overwhelming darkness. And in an office overlooking the city, Carly stood alone, the lights of Port Charles twinkling below like a kingdom she no longer ruled. The confrontation with Nina had left her feeling hollow, the conversation with Jason a fresh wound. She was adrift, untethered from the men who had defined her life for so long. But in the eyes of Carly Corinthos, there was not defeat, but a simmering, dangerous calculation. She had lost battles before. She had been knocked down more times than she could count. But she always got back up. And when she did, she was more dangerous than ever. The game was far from over, the board had simply been reset. Tuesday, October 28, 2025, would not be recorded in any history book. But within the walls of General Hospital, it was a day that altered trajectories, forged new alliances, and deepened old rifts. It was a day of endings that felt like beginnings, and beginnings that felt perilously like the calm before the storm. The heartbeat of the hospital continued, a steady, relentless rhythm against which the dramas of love, loss, and vengeance played out, forever intertwined. The scene opens in the dimly lit confines of Carly's home, where the air is thick with unspoken accusations. Jason, fresh from whatever shadowy errand has kept him out of the spotlight, bursts through the door with that signature intensity, jaw set, eyes like storm clouds. Carly, mid-sip of her ever-present coffee, freezes as he levels her with a stare that could curdle milk. "What the hell were you thinking, Carly?" he growls, his voice low but laced with fury. It's not just anger, it's betrayal, the kind that comes from years of shared battles and buried bodies. According to whispers from the WSB grapevine, Carly's been playing super spy, slipping into a high-security prison under a false identity to rendezvous with Valentine Cassadine of all people. Valentine, the silver-tongued devil who's danced on the edge of villainy for years, now rotting behind bars but still pulling strings like a puppeteer in the dark. Carly's defense is a masterclass in deflection, her southern drawl sharpening into a weapon. "You don't get it, Jason. This isn't about you or your precious codes, it's about protecting what's mine." But Jason isn't buying it. He paces the room, his leather jacket creaking with each step, recounting the risks she's taken, the forged documents, the close calls with guards who know a fake ID when they see one, and worst of all, the potential blowback on their entire circle. Sonny's already on edge with his own demons, one wrong move, and Carly's little solo mission could drag them all into the crossfire. As the argument escalates, furniture gets shoved aside, voices rise to echoes that could wake the neighbors, and for a fleeting moment, it feels like the old days, Jason and Carly against the world. But this time, the world is winning. Jason storms out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows, leaving Carly alone with her regrets and a half-empty mug. Their paths, once so aligned, now diverge like cracked pavement after an earthquake. Meanwhile, across town in the sterile glow of the PCPD interrogation room, Anna Devane is piecing together the puzzle of her life, or what's left of it after years of espionage and heartbreak. The former WSB agent, her red hair pulled back in a no-nonsense ponytail, leans over a stack of classified files, her fingers tracing lines of redacted text. She's been chasing shadows, cryptic messages from old contacts, a trail of counterfeit pikeman shipments that point to something bigger than a simple arms deal. Enter Valentine's erstwhile associate, a nervous informant who's been dangling just enough intel to keep Anna hooked. Today, he finally cracks, spilling answers like cheap wine at a Quartermain gala. "It's not just guns, Anna," the man stammers, sweat beading on his forehead under the harsh fluorescent lights. "Valentine's got a network, layers deep, pulling in people you wouldn't believe." "And Carly?" She's not the loose end you think. Anna's eyes narrow, her mind racing through connections, Carly's prison visit, Jason's sudden protectiveness, even Dante's offhand comments about increased chatter on the streets. The answers aren't tidy, they're jagged edges that cut into her assumptions. Is Valentine playing her from afar, using Carly as a pawn in a game of international intrigue? Or is there a mole closer to home, someone in Port Charles who's been feeding info to the highest bidder? As the informant is led away in cuffs, Anna sinks into a chair, rubbing her temples. For the first time in weeks, she has clarity, but it's the kind that breeds more questions. She grabs her phone, dialing an old flame for backup, knowing full well that trust is the scarcest commodity in her world. Over at the Metro Court, where opulence masks the underbelly of ambition, Nina Reeves is in her element, scheming with the precision of a surgeon and the ruthlessness of a shark. Dressed in a sleek black ensemble that screams power, she corners Drew Kane in the hotel's lavish lounge, the clink of ice in her martini glass punctuating her words like exclamation points. Nina's no stranger to dirty tricks, her history with Sonny and Willow is a testament to that, but this? This is personal. She's gunning for Willow's spot at the nurses' ball committee, or perhaps something juicier, leverage over Drew's budding political aspirations. You think you're untouchable, Drew? With your clean-cut image and your Quartermain backing, she purrs, her smile all teeth. Everyone has a skeleton. Yours just happens to be rattling louder than most. Drew, ever the golden boy with a jawline that could cut glass, tries to play it cool, but Nina's got photos, blurry but damning, of his late-night meetings with shady investors tied to the very pikeman dealings Anna's unraveling. It's blackmail wrapped in velvet, and Nina wields it like a stiletto. She doesn't just want compliance, she wants capitulation, a public endorsement that could catapult her back into the social elite. As Drew grapples with the implications, losing Michael's trust, Willow's faith in him, Nina saunters away, leaving him staring into his scotch like it holds the answers. Her play isn't just dirty, it's a declaration of war, one that ripples out to ensnare Willow in the crossfire, forcing her to question the man she thought she knew. But no one's reeling harder than Curtis Ashford, whose world tilts on its axis in the quiet sanctuary of his office at the Savoy. Curtis, the private eye with a moral compass that's seen better days, has been nursing suspicions about Portia's secretive behavior, the late nights at the hospital, the sudden aversion to wine, the way she dodges questions about their future. Today, it all crashes down when he stumbles upon a discarded pregnancy test in the bathroom trash, positive, unmistakable. His hands tremble as he holds it up to the light, the two pink lines mocking him like a bad joke. Portia pregnant? After everything, the lies about their daughter's heritage, the lingering shadow of Heather Weber's chaos, this feels like the universe's cruel punchline. He confronts her in the hallway outside General Hospital, where the fluorescent buzz does nothing to soften the blow. How long, Portia? How long have you known and kept this from me? Curtis's voice cracks, a rare vulnerability cracking his tough exterior. Portia, her scrubs rumpled from a long shift, reaches for him, tears welling in her eyes. I was scared, Curtis. After Trina, after everything we've lost, what if this changes us? What if I'm not enough? Their embrace is tentative, fraught with the weight of unspoken fears, his MS diagnosis still fresh, her career pulling her in a million directions, and now a baby on the way that could rewrite their vows. Curtis reels, not just from the shock, but from the joy warring with terror in his chest. Is this a second chance or a ticking bomb? As they cling to each other amid the beeping monitors and hurried footsteps, the future feels both brighter and more precarious than ever. Up at the Quartermain estate, where old money breeds older grudges, Ned Ashton takes on the Herculean task of taming Tracy Quartermain's latest vendetta. Tracy, perched on her velvet chaise like a queen on her throne, sips brandy from a crystal tumbler, her eyes flashing with the fire of a woman scorned. Her one-sided war with Ronnie, likely a nod to some long-festering business slight or romantic entanglement from her wilder days, has escalated to scorched-earth tactics, leaked emails, anonymous tips to the press, even a petition to oust him from the country club. Ned, ever the diplomat in a family of dynamos, enters the fray with a sigh and a stack of legal briefs. Mother, this has to stop. You're not just hurting him, you're dragging the Quartermain name through the mud. Again. Tracy scoffs, waving him off with a manicured hand. Oh, please, Neddy. Ronnie started this when he crossed me. A Quartermain doesn't back down. But Ned presses, recounting tales of their shared history, the boardroom battles, the family holidays tainted by feuds, and appeals to her softer side, the one buried under layers of sarcasm and Chanel No. 5. Will she listen? Doubtful. Tracy's not one for olive branches, she's more the scorched variety. Yet, as Ned persists, a flicker of doubt crosses her face, hinting at the loneliness fueling her rage. Their exchange devolves into a mix of barbs and nostalgia, ending with Tracy slamming her glass down, not in defeat, but in a promise to consider his words. It's progress, Quartermain style, glacial and grudging. Portia's outreach to Ava Jerome adds another layer to the day's emotional tapestry, a bridge built from shared scars. In the sun-dappled atrium of the hospital, away from prying eyes, Portia pulls Ava aside, her voice a whisper laced with urgency. I need your advice, Ava. About everything. Ava, the phoenix of Port Charles who's risen from ashes time and again, murders pinned on her, custody battles won through sheer will, listens with the empathy of someone who's stared down the abyss. Portia's confession spills out, the pregnancy, Curtis's shock, the fear of history repeating with Trina. Ava's response is gold, darling, fear is the real killer. I've lost count of the times I thought it was over, but here I am, flawed, fabulous, and fighting. Their conversation meanders from practicalities, doctor recommendations, work-life hacks, to the profound, reclaiming agency in a town that loves to strip it away. By the end, Portia's shoulders are lighter, Ava's a touch more fortified. It's a moment of solidarity, two women forging armor from vulnerability. As the episode weaves these threads, smaller vignettes pulse with potential. Dante Falconeri eyes Sonny Corinthos with growing suspicion, piecing together the mobster's erratic moods and cryptic calls. Could Jason's rift with Carly be the spark that reignites old flames? Laura Spencer, ever the beacon of quiet strength, receives dismaying news about a community project derailed by corporate greed, her dismay turning to determination as she rallies Nicholas's memory for fuel. And in a quieter corner, Gio leans on Emma Scorpio Drake for support, their budding connection a bright spot amid the storm, as Portia faces Trina with a plea for family peace that hangs in the balance.